There's so many people that want to like change the world. To me, changing the world is a lot of like going home and showing up for my family and showing up for my kids is a huge part of me like having an impact on this world. So I was a missionary kid. I was born in Harrisburg. And then at the age of 1, my family moved over to Slovakia. Yeah, with design, it's like kind of cultivating that desire to like learn and to experiment and to be creative. You can exercise that no matter what program you go to. I was more focused on like, who am I becoming as a man rather than like, what can I glean education-wise and skill-wise. Being someone who people like to work with is the number one skill. Your dream clients are maybe like 2 connections away from you.
Yes.
Yeah, you learn so much about yourself through running and like what you can push through, and it gives you a lot of confidence. Choosing hard things when you don't have to is how you build a life. Do some hard things, put yourself out there, and like you'll experience some pretty cool things on the other side of that.
All right, Cory Hunter, thank you for taking some time to chat today. I know that we're both here in the studio, so we were going to be able to make it work eventually, but I'm grateful for your time today. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. This is a first for me. Podcast, first one. This is going to be great.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a common theme with the guests that I've had on. It's their first podcast, so it's good experience all around. I've gotten to be a better conversationalist for sure from doing these.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of other benefits besides just the content. It's the people, and that's why I do it at the end of the day. So
nice. Yeah, excited.
So if you we were going to call it out. If you do hear some talking in the background for the first part of this, it's our guy Pete, he's
slinging deals,
closing deals on a sales
we
call.
call Pete the best closer west of Cabalar.
Yes, exactly. So
I don't know if we're west of Cabalar.
Yeah, but yeah, we don't want to interrupt him because he's cooking in there. So, but yeah, hopefully it's not too distracting. But anyway, so let's start with your background, because I was just getting to know you the other day, and I really don't know that much about your background. I know you said you went to Liberty and you studied graphic design there. You know, you have 4 children, which is awesome to hear. So tell me about your background in terms of, like, did you always know that you were creative? When did you realize that you wanted to pursue what you do now, which is branding professionally, and just your journey up to this point?
Yeah, I do have a bit of an interesting route to graphic design. I did always enjoy art class. I loved drawing in my free time, and did always feel like I had an artistic bend. Then when I got older and just like in high school, my brother went to Penn State. He was in engineering. And so you know how older brothers are and how they influence you a little bit. And I just thought that was cool. And I loved math and I loved physics. And so I thought, you know, some kind of engineering would probably be what I would end up doing. And I think through that, in high school, I took an engineering drawing class where you learn AutoCAD. And that was a pretty popular class. A lot of people liked taking it. So I added the class and I did 2 years of it. And I really enjoyed that. And I would like get done with my projects, what I had to do. And then I would treat AutoCAD, which is not an artistic software at all, but I would like treat it as like a design program and start like drawing things on it in like 2D rather than 3D. I don't know. So I just like started playing with it, and I really enjoyed like the 2D, like more engineering side of it, but then I just kind of like dabbled in like playing with it. And so that intrigued me. And when I was thinking about college and what to pursue and what to study, you know, engineering and mathematics was like something that I felt like I could do, like had the aptitude for. But just thinking about like, what do I want to do for the rest of my life? I was like, I maybe want to do something that I enjoy a little bit more. And so that's kind of how at first I was like, maybe there's some kind of like industrial design that's like both worlds, or like product design. And just landed on going into graphic design and kind of pursuing something that would maybe bring me more joy and like more enjoyment. And it was a little bit like, I don't know, this might be harder to make a living in, but maybe this is like kind of what I would enjoy more, and yeah, be like more sustainable as like a career. So then I went to Liberty in the graphic design program. I minored in photography and really enjoyed my time there. And it took me a little while then after college to get like my foot in the door into like a design job, but I worked with Hershey Entertainment and Resorts. My first job was at Hershey Park, and then worked at some like the hotels and like the lodge, and eventually landed an internship for their like corporate offices in design. And so that was kind of how I got started. But yeah,
Awesome.
through engineering software.
That's interesting. Yeah. So you're from Central PA originally. That's where you were born and grew up? Or?
Yeah. It's not as simple as that. It's funny. People ask me like, were you born and raised there? So I was a missionary kid. I was born in Harrisburg, and then at the age of 1, my family moved over to Slovakia, and so we were international missionaries. That's my whole childhood was in Slovakia ever since I remembered. So
Oh, wow.
from like 1 to 14. So we were there 13 and a half years. And people ask me like, what was it like growing up overseas? It's all I knew. It was like my whole childhood, and it was a great childhood. We were outdoors a lot, had a good core group of friends. And then since high school, went to Hershey High School. We moved back to the States and was in the Hershey area. And then, yeah, so kind of.
Wow.
In the States, this is my home.
Okay. Wow. That had to be really transformative to grow up there as a child and then, do your high school and college back here. Like, what were the biggest differences between the two countries, do you think?
Yeah. So the biggest adjustment for me, I was when my parents had told me, hey, we're moving back to the States, I was really excited. We would come back every 2 or 3 years for either 3 or 6 months. And so I had been here and experienced American culture and really liked being here. I loved growing up in Slovakia, but yeah, when they told me we were moving back, I was excited. So I think that was like really helpful it was a big transition, but the excitement was good and helpful. I would say so I went to public school in Slovakia. And so switching languages and learning styles was like a big adjustment, but it was never a struggle. One good example that I give is, so I loved math. I already mentioned that. And I was a freshman and they placed me like in a higher math class. And like day 1, I'm sitting there and the teacher says, take this number and make it into a fraction. And I had to turn to my neighbor and be like, what's a fraction? Because I knew what it was. I just didn't know the word fraction. And he looked at me and he was a grade or 2 ahead of me. And he was like, you're a freshman in this class and you don't know what a fraction is? And then I had to explain. So it was a transition, but I really loved it. I really loved transitioning into the States. And like I said, had a great childhood. People asked, like, do you miss living over there? The people is the thing that was like the thing I missed most is my friends. But yeah, different culture for sure, different learning style. A lot of like oral exams in Slovakia and schooling. But yeah, multiple choice was like, that was a whole new thing. And I really enjoyed that actually. I was like, oh, this is kind of nice, but.
Yeah. And forgive my, forgive my ignorance, but what, language?
Slovak.
So are you
it's not very useful language. I was like, man, could we have been missionaries in like Germany or Spain? Yeah. So I went to school there, public school. We moved when I was 1. So I learned English and Slovak at the same time. So I had like 2 first languages. So it definitely was fluent all of my life, but we moved back in 2007. So now it's been like 19 years of not using the language. And so you lose some of it. I would pick it up pretty quick and I can understand it. but speaking it is not as fluent as it used to be. And I also tell people I have the vocabulary of an 8th grader, because we went back once and I was like asking my friend, how do you say dorm? Because you never say dorm when you're like young. I don't know. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am so envious of people that are bilingual. And I know that it's a lot easier to learn multiple languages when you are that young and you're sort of learning that and English at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like playing piano. Like I've played piano, started taking lessons when I was probably 5 or 6, and it just becomes ingrained in you, or it's like learning to skate or a language. It's just these things where the younger that you do it, it's just kind of, it's second nature to you, as opposed to if you try to learn it as an adult. But yeah, there's part of me where like I wish that I grew up in a household or a culture that was encouraging me to know multiple languages, because I think that's just a really valuable skill to have. But.
Yeah, it definitely makes like dabbling or learning other languages easier, and especially like pronunciation. And so being able to pick up on how to pronounce things in different languages and kind of retain. So it's an interesting little skill, but it stinks that it's not a very useful language to me.
So that's the only country that speaks it? Or
yeah, Slovakia, it's a pretty small country. It used to be part of Czechoslovakia, and the Czech and Slovak languages are very similar. So I can understand Czech, but it's fun to run into people that, sometimes you'll run into people that have like a Slovak background, or very seldom you run into someone who speaks it, but that's interesting too. Yeah.
It is interesting. So talk about your time at Liberty and just your the specific, like, what were the biggest takeaways of things that you were able to translate over into, when you hit the workforce? I know, like, for me, being in college and networking was very important to me. Like the people that I met in college, even though I only did 2 years, I just emailed a guy this morning that I met in college, and I'm working on a project with him, and it's been like 6 years since I've been there. So, like, what are the biggest benefits of, your time at Liberty, and what you would tell people who are maybe going into an education for a creative career or something like that?
Yeah, I love this. Great question. I loved my time at Liberty. And sometimes when I tell people, like, they'll ask, did you study graphic design? Yes. Where'd you go? Liberty. The next question is, was that a good graphic design program? And I usually am like, no, it wasn't great. It's not a great graphic design program. And I wouldn't say like, oh, if you're looking to go into graphic design, you should definitely look into and that's not a knock on it. I think it was good. But I think with graphic design and creative things is you can go to a not great school and make your experience and your education great. Because I think with design and creative things, it's like, it is what you make of it. A lot of it, like, you don't have to be spoon-fed. With design, it's like kind of cultivating that desire to like learn and to experiment and to be creative. You can exercise that no matter what program you go to. So I think, like, I really enjoyed my time and I have no regrets going to Liberty. I wouldn't say it's like a top tier design school, but I think anywhere you go, you could go to a great design school and come out like not great, but you could go to, not a top tier program, and it is what you make of it. And so I think, like, if you're considering going to college and you've chosen your college and you're excited to go, I think, like, just dive in and experiment and try to learn as much. And I think relationships, like you touched on that too, that's huge. I think anything in life and with careers, like, relationships is so key, and building relationships and capitalizing on working together with people that you enjoy and like working with. And so I think that's a great example. I felt like and you can even with graphic design, like, there's a ton of self-taught people. and that's definitely a great route. And I know people who have done that really well. I think for my personality, like I don't know if I would have ever gone as deep and like if I was self-taught. So I have no regrets about going to a school and getting like the former education. I think it set me up really well. I think as far as skills, like that was it, is like the skill I probably most transferred is that curiosity and the pushing and the I could get an A in this class and deliver this kind of work, or I could get an A in this class and like push and try to like push the bounds and raise the bar for myself. So there were some great teachers there that I really learned from and respected. And so I don't mean to knock Liberty, but I wouldn't say it's top tier. But just that point that it is what you make of it. And so that's kind of my advice with thinking about schools and creative programs especially.
I totally agree. I think if you're just doing things to pass classes and for the letter grades, you're probably going to come up
no matter what school empty. You go to.
Yeah. And it is about, and I would say the same thing. I mean, I did a year at Messiah and a year at Temple, and there are probably better film schools that you could go to because I was studying film and media, but it's like you said, it's really about what you put into it. Because as a freshman, I was finding, the seniors who were working on their senior film, and I was volunteering to help on their set, sometimes staying on their set until 3 in the morning.
That's great.
Not expecting anything in return, just because like I knew that, that was going to be a way to differentiate myself and say that I was determined and things like that. So I think it's things like that in terms of education. Were there other resources?
Sorry, I just had one more thought.
Yeah.
And even when I made the choice to go to Liberty, I already knew this is not a top tier design program and I could go and pursue those. To me, it was like, I went to Liberty and I experienced the campus, and to me, it was more important. I was more focused on like, who am I becoming as a man, rather than like, what can I glean education wise and skill wise. And I know like that's a big part of why you go to college. But for me, that was I just took that into consideration a lot of like, these are very formative years. And so who am I becoming? And so that was a filter that I definitely used to think about, where am I going to school? Where am I going to spend the next 3-4 years of my life? And so.
Yeah, I love that. And for most people, myself included, it was the first time moving away from home and being independent and forming new friendships and kind of putting high school behind you. And, there's a lot that you're going through, developing your mind and maturing. And
high school to college is I was just talking to my wife about one of my first tests in college. Really like was a wake-up call for me on like what kind of effort I need to put in to college versus high school. And that's all really good stuff and very formative for you as you go into your adult years. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know we're going to gloss over some stuff because we have limited time, but I'd love to talk about the difference between all of the roles that you had in graphic design coming out of college and as of this past year, correct?
Yeah.
Going into freelancing. So can you talk about, because I'm sure that the timing is a fascinating thing, because, I'd be very hesitant to say, just don't go to college altogether, or go to college and jump right into freelancing, or, there's no one size fits all. And I think that you have to be a freelancer when you're ready, or maybe freelancing is just not for you. It really depends. But I'm sure that everything that you experienced before doing freelancing like you are now kind of prepared you for it. So can you talk about what led to that decision for you, and also just what the biggest differences are between, because they're two totally different animals. Working in the corporate world at a company versus representing yourself as your own business and working with clients directly. So can you just talk about that whole journey and what the differences are and what led to that decision?
Yeah, for sure. So out of college, I mentioned it took me a little while to get my foot in the door in like the design career. And I did a little bit of freelance when certain projects would come my way. I'd be intrigued and like I'd be passionate about starting because it just felt like, oh, I want to do something with this. So like when there are opportunities that come, I took them. And I remember getting asked, would you consider going freelance instead of trying to find a job and trying to land a job? And I didn't want to do that from the outset. I really wanted to be on a team and learn. And like I did know I have so much to learn. And again, I think like some of my personality comes into that too. I had to take that into account. I think you could go into freelance and glean just as much as I did going onto teams and learning from that. But yeah, just again, my personality, it felt like the right thing for me to do was to learn through being on a team and working with others. And so I didn't consider freelance early on. And even when I worked on teams and worked just throughout my tenure being at like a 9 to 5 in the design world, I didn't take on a lot of freelance. It was hard for me to go to work and be creative and do like a 9 to 5 and then come home and then have to do more of that. So I stayed away from freelance a good bit. I would take on projects that seemed interesting to me here and there and for friends and stuff like that. But yeah. So initially I didn't think like freelance. I think always in the back of my head, I had like, oh, it'd be interesting someday to like work for myself. But it felt like very much like on the other end of like gaining all this experience and doing some things that I really wanted to. So then, yeah, 10 of my years in the like pretty much all of my career. I started, like I said, at HENR, Hershey Entertainment Resorts, doing design for like Hershey Park, the Hershey Bears hockey team, some restaurants, hotels, and that was a lot of fun. Actually, Jeremy, who owns this studio, he did photography for Hershey Park and some of the restaurants that I remember using, and I didn't know who he was at the time, but just seeing his name, Jeremy Hess, on photos, and now getting to meet him, and so that's fun, but. Yeah, my internship was 6 months and it was going to turn into a job, and then that didn't come to fruition. And so then I went into the church world. That was kind of the door that I had open. And so I was a church creative for 10 years. And so even through that, when I started thinking about what might be next, I didn't think freelance was the next thing. And I had others ask if that would be something I'd want to pursue, and I told them no. And to me, it was too scary to like take that leap. And like you mentioned, I have 4 kids. I have a family. Like there's more at stake, and so it didn't seem like the next thing. But really, the thing that started to pique my interest into freelance was, and this might be like a common theme in this conversation, is that I just started getting together with people and just asking questions. And so it was like the relationships that really like started the intrigue of what could be. And we talked about Pete. He asked me about, would you be interested in going freelance? And so I think the more conversation and the more like I thought about it and the more me and my wife talked about it, it just seemed like an option. And then some doors opened, some doors closed, and we just started thinking through what freelance could mean for our family. And a lot of credit to my wife too. She believed in me, and she was like, you could rock this and it could be really good for us. And she's also a business owner and like independent. She owns a salon and has a team. And so I felt comfortable from a business standpoint because she's a little bit of my advisor, which I appreciate her a lot. Shout out to Jen. But yeah, just became a little bit more comfortable with the thought of going out on my own and really the value of what that could mean for my family. And so ultimately, yeah, it wasn't like the natural next thing. If you look at my career that like, oh yeah, he was building toward freelance. It was like I said, it was always in the back of my mind that maybe one day, but it it didn't feel like the next thing until we started getting more comfortable with it, and just saw the value it could have for our family. And so that was the big reason for the jump.
Yeah, the one thing I took out of your story there is the value of surrounding yourself with like-minded people who are encouraging you and uplifting you and being
sure.
honest. And,
For sure.
whether it's, your wife being a big example of that, but also, Pete just maybe planting that idea in your mind. And also, he does it. I know Austin does freelancing in here. I do freelancing. Like, if you're surrounded by other people who are doing it, it's going to, you're going to have, I don't know if it's belief, but just having, people that you can gain that inspiration from.
Yeah, it's for sure. It's proof also that it can work. I mean, Pete, he has 3 kids now. And so that was the big thing in my mind, is like, is this, can I support? Is this going to be something that's sustainable for our family? And so that there was definitely a fear of taking that. And like I said, I didn't do freelance. I didn't have clients lined up, and it was crazy. Like, it took until like the week and a half before I stepped out of my 9 to 5 for me getting traction with any work, which was crazy. But again, I think the belief from my wife was huge. And yeah, I did believe that God would provide. It's interesting. Like, I don't doubt my skill and ability. And like I said, kudos to Jen. She really spoke life into me and really believed and pushed me. And then, connecting with others that are doing it and making it happen, and it's working, and you see that proof, is really good. And then them seeing potential in you is life-giving too. So yeah, relationships are huge. If you're thinking about making any kind of transition in your life, like, talking to people is huge. Whatever the transition is, talk to people, get their perspective, get their experience, learn from them, let them speak life into you. And that was very much like, I started applying to jobs, and that felt very like, you hop online, find a job, like apply to it. Felt very like cold, and like, it didn't feel like the right route for me to make a transition. And honestly, the talking to people and relationships was the avenue for making a change. But yeah, it was wild. I mean, it was scary, but I think, for me, it was like prayer and action was the thing to do. Like, jumping into it was, I like I said, I do believe God provides, but that doesn't mean I get to sit back. Like, I had to start hustling. And so I think both of those things like attribute to how it went, making that jump.
Absolutely. And tell me about the kind of projects that you've been working on as a freelancer, and sort of how those doors got opened for you, and what you enjoy specializing in.
Yeah. So when I first made the jump, I didn't want to be quick to like define a niche or follow a niche. I do love variety. So I didn't want to be quick to figure out like, this is going to be my lane. And so still to this day, it's a bit of a journey figuring out what kind of my specializing would be. So I definitely left it up to a journey. When I first stepped out, I thought I would have to pay my dues in a lot of ways. So I was like taking on any kind of work that I could find. Like I said, it was a week and a half before I started getting any kind of traction with work. So you kind of have to take on whatever. And I did think, man, I'm going to have to pay my dues and do like really boring work. And like, it's just going to be a little bit of a grind. And I was in for that. And I think the reality could have been that would have been it. But from the gate, like I had really fun work that I was excited about. And I do think, so back in 2019, I started an Instagram account to like share some of my work and to build a bit of a community of other designers, mostly in the church world, but even not. And so built some relationships there that honestly, again, that was the thing that like helped me make that transition and filled in some of my plate very early on. And so again, we keep going back to this, but like the people, the relationships, like that was really helpful.
So already having that was
helpful. I
helpful.
had that community. I started in 2019. I was kind of active on it back then, and then I yeah, we had kids and life got crazy. And so, but still maintained relationships that I had built through launching that. And so that was really key for me. So I would say to answer your question more succinctly, the most repeat types of projects that I've had have been branding, apparel, and church work. And I enjoy all three of those. And yeah, I think the balance of those three, but still, like, I enjoy variety, and so I'll still take on other things. But I would say that I'm predominantly like a branding and apparel designer. I think for now, we'll see, we'll see what happens. But I'm really enjoying that. Apparel, clothing designs is really fun, and I enjoy with branding that it's a kind of a larger scope, longer, and definitely requires more intention and forethought and more of a process. And so I like having those kind of projects that the span of them are a little bit longer, and then filling in with some like shorter projects. That's been a good balance for me. So I've enjoyed that.
Awesome. So what are the things that you think separate you, in your process, or the unique things that you bring to the table as, a branding service provider? And like, are there specific pain points or strategies that you focus on when you're working with a new client, or like what are ways that you try to stand out and be different, or or more memorable, I should say?
Yeah. Something someone told me earlier on was that you don't have to be the best designer. You just have to be liked from like a personality and someone people enjoy working with. And I think that's been huge. Thinking of my work from the standpoint of it's a relationship to maintain. It's, it's relational. And so I think being liked and having just good, you could call it bedside manner, or just like how you approach talking with the client, and even how you approach receiving feedback and all of that. I think being someone who people like to work with is the number one skill to making it in freelance and to having those repeat clients. I think people will always like to work with people. This is a bit of a tangent, but like, with the dawn of AI, I think like that's what gives me rest, is like, I think people will just always really enjoy working with people. And I think we've already seen that. And so I just try to approach it very much from a relational standpoint. So just treating people with respect and getting to know them, and like connecting beyond just the project is really important to me. So I think I'm a talented designer, but they could go and find a more talented person. But I think it's just once you form that connection and have a good conversation, and like that just becomes, I think, momentum to working together with someone, and their trust, them giving you their trust, and being able to follow through with projects. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I often like to say, is that there are multiple pillars to success as a freelancer. I think, your work has to be high quality, and you have to take pride in that. But also there's the business side of it, and, the numbers and everything, which might not come naturally to creative people, that you have to learn.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, it's the people skills, which, if you're introverted or like to label yourself as that, which I have,
but there's people
that's a
that
whole
love
tangent.
introverted people.
Right. So you have to, I mean, my point is you have to recognize that is a pillar of it. If you are introverted, you can be a people person to the degree that you need to be, or that makes you. Yeah,
and it's a muscle you can exercise for sure. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So on top of the branding, apparel, and church work that you've been focusing on, are there any specific projects that you're working on right now or upcoming that you want to share or talk about?
Yeah. One thing I didn't touch on is I've always been intrigued by like the music side of like the music creative industry. And so that's somewhere that I don't know about how intentionally I've been trying to like get in there, but that's something that I'm really intrigued about. And I do work with an agency in Nashville called Run Club Creative. It's funny. um, and they do work with brands, but then they also do a lot of work with artists. And so through that, I had a pretty cool opportunity come up this week that I'm working on. That's really exciting. Brandon Lake is doing a song with Bailey Zimmerman. And by the time this is out, it'll be out. But they reached out to me, the agency that I work with, wondering if I would want to help out with a lyric video. And so a lyric video, like, that's motion design a little bit. That's in After Effects. Like, that's outside of branding and apparel. But it's just a really cool opportunity. And yeah, the music side of stuff really interests me. I play drums. I love music. I've loved music from a young age. And so I think that's another outlet that, like, I'm excited about. And that's a project that, yeah, if you would have asked me a year ago, I would have never said, oh yeah, I might have the opportunity to work with someone like Brandon Lake or Bailey Zimmerman. It's crazy. So shout out Run Club Creative for the trust there.
Yeah. Sometimes working with these really big names is only one person away.
Yeah,
you may think it's
wild.
Oh, it's this entire chain of networking. But sometimes, I mean, I did stuff for this good friend and colleague of mine, this company in Philly, and he was working with these agencies, and I was doing stuff for like the Premier League, NFL, these big spirits brands that these celebrities own. And
I saw a picture of you and Saquon Barkley on your Instagram.
Oh yeah, that doesn't have anything to do with it. He was just at a meet and greet.
But it's still the same thing. Like,
right.
It's amazing what circles you'll get in through building relationships. And you're like, the people that your dream clients are maybe like 2 connections away from you.
Yes.
And like, it goes back to what we said, like, you don't have to be the absolute best in the industry to get some of these opportunities. Mm-hmm. You just have to be like, we've worked with this guy before. He does solid work. We enjoy working with him. He's easy to work with. There's so many opportunities from that avenue. Honestly, it's wild.
I love it.
It's crazy.
I want to talk about running really quickly. So I know you worked on a couple of projects for Common Run Club.
Yeah.
Apparently we had both been going there and didn't even realize it.
Yeah, back last summer. Shout out Common.
Yeah, love it.
Shout out Common Running.
I'm excited to start going back as the weather warms up a little bit. But talk about the role that just running in community has played in your life, because I think that's one thing that I love to preach on this, just, I don't know, necessarily on the podcast, but the importance of community, not just as a vehicle for getting business connections, but also just friendships and the need for the in-person community. I know Austin who's also in the studio with Silo, is a huge a pioneer of that. But just talk about the importance of community, and if you want to touch on running, and how do you respond to critics who will make fun of you for being a runner?
Oh man,
I know that's
they're just
big
jealous,
question,
honestly. That's how you deal with that now.
Sure.
I started running back in 2019. At this point, we had just had our second child, and I was like, I got to do something. I loved like college, high school. I loved being in fitness. Like, I did a lot of lifting back in those days. And then, you come into your career, you start having a family. Some of that kind of falls by the wayside. And 2019, I was like, I got to do something. I got to get moving. And running is just such a simple way to get exercise. And so it's like, you get a pair of shoes, and then like you go out the door, you run a loop in your back, and that's done. Like,
anyone can do it.
It's so simple.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was what drew me, is that the simplicity of it. It was just something very simple to start up. And I didn't have to get a gym membership. It's just, it was very simple. And I grew up with asthma, which was interesting. And I think I leaned on that as a crutch to not run most of my childhood and most of my teen years. I like would have a note to get out of like the longer distance runs that would maybe happen at school. And so I like leaned on it as a crutch, and I thought like, I'm not a distance runner. Even in high school, that held me back from like trying out for soccer, because they had to run in the tryouts like a 2.5 mile timed thing, and that held me back. And It was wild. I had this thing about myself that it was like, I'm not a runner because I have asthma and I don't enjoy running, and asthma is why. But yeah, I started running because it just felt simple. And, you get a couple weeks into it, maybe like 6 weeks is what they say is when you start to feel progress. And so if you run like 3 times a week for 6 weeks, you really start to feel like get in the groove and you start to feel in shape, and it's not as difficult. And so I got to that point and really enjoyed it. And so then that was 2019. That led right into 2020. Everything shut down. And so again, it was just like a very accessible exercise to do is to go run. So I kept up with it. And I was like, wow, I can do this. I can run. This is wild. And I was like, I could never do like a marathon, but I can do like 3-mile loops, and I can push for time and get good exercise. And then my brother got into running, my older brother, and he got really good at long distance running. He lost a ton of weight. It was really good for him, and he got impressively good. And he did like a marathon, and he was like, we should do a marathon. And I was like, okay. And it felt like an okay time for me to commit to that, and definitely cleared it with the wife. But I was like, all right, let's do a marathon. And I had never done a half. I had done like 5Ks, but it was my first like long distance race and like training for something. And it was a 26-week training period. And yeah, you learn so much about yourself through running and like what you can push through, and it gives you a lot of confidence in what you can do. It is a grind and it takes time, and it's a lot of, but you just get surprised with what your body can handle, what you can do. And it definitely, I think something throughout my life that I've always wanted to be more mentally tough than I am. And I think running is such a thing that can sharpen your mental toughness in crazy ways. And so I really appreciated that fact about running and conquering a marathon. I didn't hit any of my goals really with running the marathon. I got sick the week prior, and even the day of had a headache. And so I was just like, I'm not going to worry about like my goals, my pace. I'm just going to try to enjoy it. And it's crazy. Like I still to this day will be like, if you track how far 26.2 miles is like from your home to somewhere, it's so far. Anyways.
Yeah.
But you can do that. Like your body can do that. You train for it, and it's wild. So that, I think, yeah, running has a special place in my life because I think it's given me a lot of confidence, fulfillment, and like pushed me. And yeah, like what you said, like now there's a community around it, around Common. And yeah, I think it's really good mentally. I've been rambling on about running, but I do think it's an interesting activity where you go for a run and you have so much time and space for your mind to just wander. And I think that's really good for your mind. And there's no distractions. You can't like pull out your phone while you're running and like get on Instagram, and you can't like turn on the TV or like, I guess people listen to music and do podcasts, and I used to do that, but now I just do it. Like, I think mentally it's so good just to have that free space to like, there's no distraction. I just let my mind kind of wander, and you can really pursue thoughts pretty deep when you're just on a run and kind of on autopilot and no distractions. So I think from that standpoint, it's great. Big running guy.
Yeah. I think
Very pro running.
It's a great metaphor for life in terms of if you're training for something, or if you have to push through difficult things, or we were talking about before recording, but it's the voluntary choice so of good. Putting yourself through something difficult, even though you don't have to, so that when the involuntary moments of suffering happen in your life, you're more well equipped to handle those.
Yeah, that was actually, I followed this train of thought on a run. Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting. I don't know what the thoughts about this. This is how I landed there. I was on a run. It was early morning. It wasn't like nice weather, warm. It was cold. And I saw a man walking to work because he was in a uniform. there's some assumption maybe that I assumed he was walking to work. And I was like, that's tough. Like, this is not great weather. And like, you're walking to work. And I filled in some assumptions. So I don't know how everyone's going to feel about that. But I just like, there are people that have to get up early in the morning and don't have the other option other than to walk a decent amount to a work that maybe doesn't pay well. And so I started chasing down that thought of like, what's the difference between like someone like that and someone who has like a great life? And maybe, and I don't know, this person maybe wasn't stuck, but that was like the character that I just like had in my mind. There are those people that are like stuck in life. And what's the difference between someone who's stuck and unstuck? And I did think like, okay, him and I are both out here. I'm choosing to be out here. He might have to be out here. Mm-hmm. And just, I do think like choosing hard things when you don't have to is how you build a life. I do really believe that. And it was a great run because I felt like, and I just like chased that thought down of like, when you intentionally put yourself in, life is going to be hard no matter what. If you're rich, there's really hard things that come with that. If you're poor, there's really hard things that come with that. And so you do have to choose your hard. No one gets out of this life without hardship. Everyone has hardship. If you have all the money, your relationships are probably through the things that are going to be really hard anyways. But I do think like making the decision that I'm going intentionally to choose something hard because I know that's what's good for me and it's going to help me build a life. And so with running, that's like, it's really good for your mind. But like even in your career and at school, like you had mentioned that you would hop on like seniors projects and just like, that was something that you did not have to do. That was extra work that you did not have to do. But I believe like that's how you build a life that you want. And there's tons of examples of how to do that. Going to college, no one has to go to college, but you're like, I'm intentionally going to do this hard thing. And I believe that will help me build a life. And so even these days, like I think about like, what is the hard thing that I'm going to choose to do? Having 4 kids, it's not easy and no one forced me to do it. It's a choice we made. But I love what life that will build me and who that's making me to be. And like in the future, like I'm so excited. And even now it's already in fruition is like we have a full dinner table of great relationships with our kids. And those are like, you're intentionally making hard choices and doing that is going to build you a great life. So I love that. Do you have more thoughts like kind of around the
Yeah, I love what you were saying about the mentality of choosing your hard, because in a lot of ways our current society is encouraging convenience and comfort, and you can have everything delivered, you never have to go outside, and
you can choose comfort really easily these days.
But if you're comfortable, you might unknowingly be choosing a hardship further down the road because of the things that you're doing. If you're not, I'm not saying that running directly, equates to being in shape. There's a lot of elements of that. But if you're not doing things that are, healthy for you physically and mentally, just because you value comfort right now, then that might lead to difficult things down the road because of the choices that you're making now, or even, if you're staying in a career that you don't like because it's comfortable and you're afraid of taking that leap of faith, it might be uncomfortable to close this store and open this other one in pursuit of the career or the life that you want. Scary. But if you get past that discomfort, it may be, more fulfilling to you in the long run. So it's kind of it's all about decisions. And I think it's just it's like I said, it's a great metaphor for so many things. And also one thing I just wanted to echo is, it's like you were saying, you let your mind wander on runs. And, like I was telling you before, I ran this 5K in October last year. It was the longest I'd ever gone without stopping. And I just said, you know what, I'm not going to walk at any point. I'm going to get through the entire thing. And this was in Colorado, so I wasn't sure how the elevation was going to affect me or whatever. But I said, you know what? I'm just going to keep going through it. And, you know, your mind can be just really brutal saying, you know, you don't have to do this. You're just doing this because you want to. No one's holding you accountable. You know, it's just no one's going to be upset with you if you just start walking, or, you know, you've never run this far before. Maybe you can't do it, or just your mind is kind of this internal battle of telling you that you're weak and you don't have to do things even though you're trying. And being able to conquer that little voice in your head, I think is so, it's that muscle that you have to exercise. And whenever,
I put that like this is like running is so, you're battling yourself constantly, and it is a big mind game thing. And so like what I've thought about that is like, hey, when you go out and go for a run, you're fighting yourself, but you win no matter what.
Yeah.
Because it's you versus you. It's win. There's no losing, because if a part of you loses on a run, you've gone, you showed up, you did something, you've won some kind of battle. And so, yeah, it's just you battling yourself out there, which is so good for you.
Yeah. So hopefully all of the running haters out there can...
All three of you now.
Yeah, can listen to this. And there are a lot of critics, and it's funny. I saw this reel on Instagram yesterday, and the guy was saying, basically, if no one could take a photo of themselves after a marathon, would people still run marathons? The point being, you only do it for the vanity and to prove that you're cool or whatever. And
it doesn't matter. He's still ahead of you.
Right. And everyone
still put in the work.
Everyone was commenting like, you're jealous. Just tell us you can't run it, bro. Like, it's okay. But I think my point is, if you listen to the things that we're talking about, just winning those internal battles with yourself, and not to mention just getting outside and moving in the fresh air, I think is really good for your physical and mental health. I think, you know, people who look at why are people running, it's just kind of this, it kind of seems pointless or whatever. I think there's a lot more layers to it that we were touching on. And I'd encourage it if everyone just ran a mile a week or whatever, I think we would, everyone would be better off.
Yeah. I don't even think it matters the reason that if you're running and you want it for that picture, I think your journey will take you beyond that. Is like you'll start there, but then you'll be like, oh, this is like really good for my like.
It unlocked this, and that.
Yeah, the reason almost doesn't matter. He's still doing the thing you're not willing to do, so don't hate him for the reason that he's doing it at first. Also, to the people though that like, I hate running, I could never be a runner. I tell people like, maybe not, it's not everyone, but so many people would enjoy running if they just stuck to it for 6 weeks. If it's a mile a week, if it's a mile 3 days a week, like give it 6 weeks, you might start to enjoy it. Like that was me. I didn't think I would enjoy it. I was just like, I need to do something. And eventually I was like, this is kind of nice and good. Have you experienced runner's high? I have not, I don't think, experienced runner's high. So I wouldn't preach like you're going to experience runner's high but it's so fulfilling. It's so like,
you're not going to achieve the runner's high without the consistency. That's the thing, because you have to. And I mean, I would say maybe on a very small scale, I've gotten a small taste of runner's high, because when you're beyond, even on a 3-mile run, right? The first mile is fine. The second mile starts to hurt. And then the last mile, your body's warmed up and you're in a groove, and you just start to have this connection with, you know, your body and the universe and the people that you're running with. And that's sort of the way that I can describe it. But I don't think I've experienced it to the level that a lot of people have, where they feel like they're flying in a way. So You had mentioned Common, and I just had a thought. We put out a couple of t-shirts, or Common put out a couple of t-shirts that I was able to help design. And one of them, I just had the thought, it's very like common, it's a very common phrase
It's a very common running club phrase to put it this aggressively, but just we put on a t-shirt, life bites, bite back. And it feels aggressive, but like life is really hard. And like we don't bite back by like being aggressive towards other people. That's not the way to bite back. But to show up to common, like I showed up, it was just, I came by myself. I didn't know anyone. And I'm pretty shy at first. And so even that was taking a step out, being uncomfortable. And like, that's the way you bite back at life, is like you do those hard things, those uncomfortable things, and so that just reminded me of the shirt too, is like, life is hard. Do some hard things, put yourself out there, and like you'll experience some pretty cool things on the other side of that.
Yeah, it's building up that resilience.
Yeah.
And also, I think being the antidote to negativity, you could consider that a form of biting back, just because, there's a lot of negativity out in the world, and isolation and loneliness. And when I go to these events and, if I'm able to go up to someone standing in the corner and start talking to them and see them open up and have, a smile on their face, that, people are starving for that. And that could be a form of fighting back against negativity, I guess. But besides just the running part of it, but the running brings everyone together in a community.
Yeah.
And that's just as valuable.
Yeah. That just led me to a thought. We have a poster at our house, and it's a quote by Mother Teresa, and it says, "If you want to change the world, go home and love your family." And I think that's like, just like, you can take that broader. It's like, there's so many people that want to like change the world. It's like, we need to make change happen. And like what you said, it's like, what's the family around you? What's the community around you? What are the people around you that you can go up to that guy in the corner and say, hey, and, start opening up. And I think like in this day and age of social media and news being everywhere, it's like, how do we change the world? But like, what's your world that you can affect around you that's so much smaller? And like, I think people get overwhelmed and they even like, they'll pressure you into thinking bigger, like change the world. Like we need to change this. And I just think on a smaller scale, like to me, changing the world is a lot of like going home and showing up for my family and showing up for my kids is a huge part of me, like having an impact on this world. But then like, what are my circles that like, I think like biting back in life and like fighting against negativity. It's like in that sphere of influence that you have.
Yeah. I don't want to bring, like,
do it,
like
do it.
influencers into, but Gary V, I know it's like, it's always about Gary V or some influencer, but there was this video I saw where
they're where they're at for a reason.
Right. But this one woman came up to him, and there's this one video, and she said, "I can't wait until I become someone." And he said, and he put his hand on her shoulder, and he said, "But listen, you already are someone. Like, just because you're not world famous doesn't, like, that's the goal that people aspire to be. It's like, no, if you are someone to yourself, you're someone to, your family, if you have children, if you have a spouse, your parents, your siblings, your friends, your coworkers, like you are someone in your own world. Yeah. And sometimes just that's enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And if you don't have those someones in your life that were like, I don't have family, I don't have people around me, I work remotely. It's like, you have to do those things, like go to comment. You have to go somewhere and like meet people, and it's uncomfortable. Yeah. And it's hard, but like, you have to build some of that. Yeah.
There's no excuse really. I mean,
there's opportunity.
You have to get out there, and there are amazing, innovative people.
Yeah, like, go on Facebook, find a group that does something that you're interested in. Yeah. Connect with people, start to build, and then you're all of a sudden someone to someone.
Absolutely. I know we're probably running out of time. I think that's a great place to end it. But if people want to reach out to you, and Hunter Creative, right?
Hunter Creative
is
Co.
the Hunter Creative Co. So what are the best links people should go to if they want to hire you or learn more about you and your services? Yeah,
Instagram is probably where I'm most active. huntercreative.co, no spaces. That's on Instagram. And I have a website portfolio, huntercreative.co, same thing. But yeah. follow me. Let's chat.
Awesome.
Slide into my DMs. Maybe I shouldn't.
Do you prefer?
I'm very married and very happy.
Do you prefer DMs or emails or?
I don't know. Probably DMs. There's such a connotation.
Yeah, I know we didn't get into this
professionally, guys. We're talking about.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation around like LinkedIn, emails, website, Instagram. Just there's all the different ways, and I just try to funnel everything towards booking a call with me or sending me an email, because sometimes I miss DMs, to be honest.
Okay.
But I try to stay on top of that more.
Yeah.
But anyway, thanks a lot, Cory. This was
thank you.
This was so much fun, and I'll be seeing you a lot because we're both in the studio. But
come hang out at the studio.
Awesome. All right, thanks again.
You got it.